yesterday we were looking at the two forms of an equation for a circle. This was our standard form. We went through and could put it into our general form. So let's start here. We've got this equation. This is a circle, first of all, whose center is at -3, 2, and the radius, though, right now it says 12, but that's the radius squared. So the radius is actually the square root of 12, which is approximately, can somebody punch that in your calculator a second? What's the square root of 12? 3.46, okay? Which would be good for graphing. Or if we look at the 12, 4 goes in there, so we're going to get 2 square root of 3. Okay? That would be our radius. But let's go and rewrite it in our general form. So we're going to have to take that binomial. We're going to have to square it. Same with the other one. So why don't you write down what those binomials squared are. Do that real quick there. Maya, what would be this first one here? Perfect. Okay. How about the second one there, Jonathan? What are you going to give for that one? Good. Good. Equals 12. Perfect. And then we'll finish it up where we put the x squared first, then the y squared, then the x term, which is your 6x, then your y term, which is your minus 4y. The 9 and the 4 go together to give you 13. Subtract the 12, so you'll have a plus 1, and then equals 0. Now, we're going to be doing the reverse today, so I want you to notice this 6 right here, the 6x, if you cut that in half, you get 3. That's that 3 right there. And you then square that 3 to get the 9. Same here, this -4, you cut it in half. That's where you get the -2. Or you take -2 and square it, and you get the number on the end. So that's what we're going to be looking at here, what we're going to be calling it complete the square. So we're just going to practice that a moment. So if I was making this into a perfect trinomial, okay, I would take that 8, cut it in half, which would be 4, and square it, and I would get 16. That's going to make it be a perfect square trinomial, we'll call it. Or we could rewrite it as the binomial x plus 4 squared. If I squared that binomial, it will become this trinomial. So why don't you take a moment here with the x squared minus 4x and the y squared minus 10y and write down what's going to complete the square. What will complete the square. So Calvin, what's going to complete the square on the x squared minus 4x? Plus 4, yep. Because again, cut that -4 in half, you get -2, square it. Good. How about, who knows what's the binomial squared going to be? Now, we've done this one a few times, so Bradley, what are you going to have in here for this binomial? Almost, x minus 2, because of the negative right there. Okay? How about over here with the x squared minus 10y? What will complete the square there? Connor, you know what's going to complete the square on that one? Tell us, what is it going to be? Perfect, plus 25. Because again, take the -10, cut it in half, and that will help you then get that binomial squared. So that's going to be y minus 5. So that's what you get when you cut it in half. That -5 you square it to get the positive 25 on the end. Okay, let's do this one here. Y squared plus 2y. What's going to complete the square? Anybody, what are we going to put on the end? 1. Yep. Take the 2, cut it in half, get 1. 1 squared is 1. So y plus 1 squared is the binomial that we'll put there. This one's a little trickier here. If you take that negative 1, cut it in half, you get 1/2, or negative 1/2, square it. 1/2 squared is 1/4. That will complete the square there. Again, this is like having a 1, cut it in half, square it to get the number on the end. Okay? So we're going to use that. We're going to go ahead, we're going to take this lovely equation here, and we're going to graph it. The only thing graphing that circle in that form is very difficult, so we're going to put it back in the standard form. So we're going to kind of rewrite it. And this is my suggestion to do that. We're going to do x squared. We'll put the minus 6x next to it, plus blank, because we're going to fill in and complete the square. So I'm just going to put a blank there. Then I'll do plus y squared minus 4y plus blank. I'm going to have to complete the square. I'm going to take that 8. I'm going to move it to the other side of the equal sign. So that's going to be a negative 8 over there. So then we go ahead and we look at this and say, okay, what am I going to do to complete the square? Take my negative 6, cut it in half, you get negative 3, square it, you're going to get a 9. I've added 9 to the problem to complete the square. If I add 9 to the left, I got to add 9 to the right. So put the 9 over on that side also. To complete the square on the next part, cut the negative 4 in half, we get negative 2, square it, you're going to get 4. I'm going to add 4 here. If I add it to the left, I got to add it to the right. So whatever you do to the left side of the equation, you got to balance it out and add it to the other side. Now I'll rewrite this as a binomial squared. We'll have x minus 3 squared plus y minus 2 squared equals, and this is going to give us 5. Okay, so now we can go ahead and graph it. We know the center is at 3, 2, and the radius is square root of 5. It is approximately 2.2. Okay, so we complete the square there, and then we can, of course, graph it. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and then we'll just roughly graph it there. Questions along the way? Yeah. This 9, because I needed to complete the square, so I could rewrite this as a binomial. Take that 6, cut it in half. You're going to get negative 3, square it. That goes there. And there's the negative 3. That kind of helps you out there. Good question. Anybody else? Okay, let's take a look at another one here. Okay, let's go and quick do this one. And the same idea. Again, we'll break it apart. X squared minus 2x plus blank, because we're going to complete the square, plus y squared plus 4y plus blank equals 4. I'm going to move that negative 4 to the other side of the equal sign. Okay, you go ahead and complete the squares. The first blank should be a 1. The second blank should be a 4. But we've added a 1 and a 4, so we've got to be sure to add those to the other side of the equation. Okay? So this will become x minus 1 quantity squared plus y plus 2 quantity squared equals 9. So I just now took my perfect trinomial here, made it into the binomial. Now that was a plus 4y, so that's why we have a plus 2 here. Questions there? I went kind of fast, but okay. So your center is at 1, negative 2. Don't forget, you always do the opposite signs. And the radius is 3. This one works out nice. So then you can graph it. However, there you go. Okay. All right, let's look at the next one here. What's different? Let me see something different from the last ones. Yeah, it's got the 2x squared and the 2y squared. So what might we do to this problem to start out with? Divide everything by 2, okay? And we can do that. We divide everything by 2. Now you'll have x squared plus y squared minus 10x plus 2y plus 17. I'll move that over to the other side right away anyway. But divide everything, maybe I better not jump too far back. Okay, so that'll be plus 17. And then, of course, 0 divided by 2 is still 0. So we divide everything by 2. Now it's a problem just like we had before. Okay, so very quickly, x squared minus 10x plus blank. And then we'll put the y's together. Y squared plus 2y plus blank equals negative 17. We can complete the square. Half of the negative 10 will be negative 5 squared. You're going to get a 25. So be sure to add the 25 to the other side. Half of the 2 is 1 squared. You get 1. Add it to the other side. So our binomial will be x minus 5 squared. And the y will be y plus 1 quantity squared. What do we get on the other side? 9? Okay, equals 9. I went very fast, but anybody got a certain question there? Don't know where I got some of the numbers. Center, of course, 5, negative 1, and the radius is 3. Okay, let's come up with some equations based with some information. Let's draw it out, then I think it's going to be pretty easy to figure out. Find the general form of the equation of a circle with its center at negative 3, 1, and its tangent to the tangent to the y-axis. What does that mean if it's tangent to the y-axis? Anybody know? Something's tangent? Just touches it? Skims the y-axis? So this circle is going to come along and it's just going to skim the y-axis like that. You've heard of tangents before, haven't you? Yeah? Just going to skim the y-axis. So what do you know about that? You know the center, but you now also know the radius, right? Okay, so Taylor, what's the radius going to be? 3. Okay, so your radius is 3. So go ahead, write down the equation of that circle. Which form are you going to put it in, though, to start with? Standard form. So go ahead and do that. Get your standard form. Jonathan, what's that equation going to be? Good. Yep. Oh, squared. Let's write in standard form first, okay? Or 9. So there's your standard form. You could then go ahead and do the general form, where you're going to square this out and square that one out and then simplify it. We won't do that right now, okay? But this is standard. General form, you'd have to go a step farther. Okay, let's take a look at this last problem here. Find the standard form of the equation of a circle with a diameter with endpoints at 4, 3, and 0, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. There's one diameter. And 0, 1 is the other diameter. So there's your circle. So what else do we need to, what have we got to find? Do we know the center? Can we figure out where the center of the circle is going to be? Halfway between the 4 and the 0, okay? And then halfway between the 3 and the 1. So our center, where's that going to be? Drake, where's the center going to be? 2, 2, 2. Good. And it's very easy to see. Okay? That's not so bad. Now we got to find the radius. So we've got to figure out what's the distance between 2, 2 and either 0, 1 or 4, 3. We have to find that radius distance. Or you could find the diameter distance and then cut it in half. Doesn't matter. Let's do the diameter distance and cut it in half, in case that's what you do before. So we're going to find the distance between these two. Okay? So 4 minus 0, we've got to do our distance formula, plus 3 minus 1 squared, take the square root. We're doing the distance between the two diameter endpoints. So we're going to have 16 plus, because 4 squared is 16, we're going to have 2 squared, that's going to be 4. So I'm going to get the square root of 20. That's, though, my whole diameter. Okay? I better simplify that. What goes into 20? It's a perfect square. 4 times 5. So this is going to be 2 square root of 5. That's my diameter. What's my radius? What's the radius going to be, Kelvin? Yep. What are you going to have? When you take and divide this by 2, you can't cancel the 2 with what's under the square root. Okay? The 2 only cancels with the 2. So, right, you're going to have 1 square root of 5 or just square root of 5. Okay? Now, had you just found the distance between the center and that point, you would have come up with just square root of 5. Okay? Now, go ahead. Let's write down the equation of the circle. X minus, go back to your center point, and y minus the 2, that's at your center point, equals our radius, which is square root of 5, squared. And that, of course, will just be 5 on the end. Okay? So be very careful when you're finding that whatever the diameter is, got to keep track of what you're doing. Are you finding the length of the diameter, or are you finding the length of the radius? It really wouldn't have mattered which one you did. Okay? All right. Any questions? All right.